It is 6 p.m. We will call this regular meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order, June 16th, 2021. Could we please read the Zoom protocols? Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Scaliotti, if you could lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could please get a roll call. Thank you. Department announcements.
Yes, Robin Bolster-Grant, Assistant Director of Planning and Building Services. First, I want to apologize for the size of the packet tonight and the lack of dividers. That will not be a problem that we run into again. It will be paginated with page numbers and dividers. It was a little bit of some last minute changes, so I want to say that we're aware of that and we'll be on top of it. Secondly, more importantly, we have a big announcement to make coming from the RMA. Our director, Benny Young, has announced that he is resigning from his post. His last day is June 30th, so we're sad, but also understand that it's all about balance and life, work. We have to be paying attention to both, and he's done a great job. So that is all from the RMA.
Thank you. Public comment for any items under the purview of the Planning Commission that are not on the agenda. If we could open public comment. Are there any folks on Zoom wishing to speak? Anyone in the gallery? See.
I apologize. Can we pause just a moment? People via Zoom cannot hear us, and I want to make sure that everyone can hear us for the public.
Sounds good.
Mic check, though.
Do you want the commissioners to do a mic check as well?
Okay. Back to public comment. Are there any folks on Zoom that would like to speak for the general public comment?
I have one speaker via a Zoom. Oh, never mind, their hand was lowered.
Okay, thank you. On the consent agenda. Adoption of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
No corrections, Chair.
Any public comment on the consent agenda?
None via Zoom.
In the gallery? None. Okay. What is the wish of the commission for the consent agenda? We can make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 4-0. Thank you. Regular agenda, item number 4, CIP program consistency determination and recommendations to the Board of Supervisors.
Good evening again, Chair Gibson, Commissioners, Robin Bolster-Grant, Assistant Planning Director, Planning and Building Services. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. In accordance with Government Code 65401, the Planning Commission is required to review the proposed Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, projects for each year annually. In front of you are the projects for 2021-2022 fiscal year. And we're asking for a determination that these projects are consistent with the county general plan. Once your commission has determined consistency, the report and the resolution will be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors for action on the budget. The CIP projects cover 3 basic purposes. First, for the renewal, refurbishment, or replacement of existing facilities. Second, for the development of new county facilities and support services. And third, the purchase of vehicles, computer systems, and equipment with a value exceeding $100,000. A consistency determination can be made if a project furthers the objectives and policies of the general plan. Perfect conformity is not required, but the project must be compatible and not in conflict with general plan policies and objectives. As stated in the staff report, improvements and/or replacement of county roads and bridges meet Policy 4 of the transportation element. Park maintenance and improvements are consistent with Goal 9 of the general plan that calls for a well-balanced system of recreation, and repairs to existing buildings is consistent with the primary intent of the general plan by promoting the health and welfare of the community and providing improved access to and longer lifespan of county facilities. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission passes and adopts the attached resolution, finding that the Capital Improvement Program projects are consistent with San Benito County General Plan. Capital Improvement Manager Karen Gumman is present to answer questions pertaining to the nature of these projects. Thanks so much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Mr. Betancourt.
It's, Richard Betancourt, 4140 Southside Road. I'm very disappointed. This should have been last on the agenda, not the first. Because you have the people sitting here that are doing people's business that are given taxpayers. To me, that should have been put on last on the agenda.
Thank you. Is there any public comment via Zoom?
No public comment via Zoom.
Any additional comments in the gallery? Seeing none. Are there any
Well,
comments from the commissioners?
if Ms. Gammon could speak to us about the distinction between the what are going to be the new projects versus what is remedial or reparative of existing infrastructure, I would appreciate that. Or, I mean, you know, the CIP, as I see it, it just has a kind of a list of the various projects, but what's going to be new versus what is just...
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for the invitation to step up and discuss briefly the projects. I'm Karen Gumman. I'm new, about 5 months as Capital Project Manager. And let me just clarify how I can best help. Your question is you want to discuss which projects are brand new build construction
Yes.
versus deferred maintenance or repairs.
Yes.
Yes, there's typically about 22 projects that was presented as a recommended capital project plan for the board back in May, and then again in June. And the focus is a group of projects that are health and safety related to existing projects. So they range from ADA accessibility, public works improvement to security cameras, fire safety improvements was a main priority. Health and safety with, let's say, jail mold abatement, repairing Ag Commission HVAC systems that are offline and past their useful life. So we have just finished 2 brand new constructions of the jail expansion, Center for Rehab, and the ribbon cutting tomorrow is for the new Behavioral Health Center. So on the 1-year definite 5-year recommendation, there is no new building purchase or construction in the presented CIP plan.
Okay. And so the child support, post office move improvements, those sites have already been secured, or is that funding that is towards a future move or relocation of those offices?
Oh, thank you for asking. That is a relocation from a leased space. They are backfilling the old, it's about 10,000 square foot vacated place from the Behavioral Health Center on 1131 San Felipe Road.
Okay.
Yeah. And they have secured funding from state grants and department savings to department fund a project for tenant improvements to serve their public customers.
One other inquiry I have is about the new Adria crossing repair.
I'm sorry, could you kindly repeat that?
Is in regards to the new Adria road crossing repair. So what modifications or what changes are going to be taking place in that road to sort of safeguard against a flood or another washout? Or within that project, what modifications are going to be taking on? Is it still going to be the same route, the same crossing over the creek and all of that?
I don't have that engineering detail, or I don't have participation in that aspect of the engineering project.
Okay.
So let me see if perhaps Michael or can we circle back with that information?
Okay.
We
Provide
can't,
that?
just to clarify, pardon, this is about categories of projects where we don't have all of the information to do a deeper dive into the specific engineering or plans or anything. It really is just, does the category of project, is that consistent with our general plan goals and policies? Thank you.
And to specifically answer your question, that project's going into design, so that has not been determined at this point.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners, or is there a motion on the table?
I do.
Commissioner Scaliotti?
I have a question on the drain impact fee fund for the storm drain for Fairview Road, Santana Creek Ranch. And this, I take it that's gonna come out of the impact funds that they put, that they're placing forward? Or shouldn't that come out of their pockets since they're creating the problem? It should come out of their money, not out of the impact fee money. If I'm reading this properly.
The Santana Ranch project is not addressed in that project. There are 4 specific drainage solutions that we need to put in because culverts have collapsed. 2 of them will be funded by the drainage funds. 2 of them are being funded by road funds. The Santana Ranch issue is being handled through another route, and it's not ready to go into the CIP yet.
Well, then how come it's listed here as we're gonna pay for it?
It's not. That is a culvert that has collapsed that was not replaced when they did the paving work that.
Where at? Where's the culvert at?
I could get you those specifics. I don't have them with me.
Please. Thank you. That's all.
Any other commissioner comments, or is there a motion on the table?
It was just a question on the San Benito Street and Nash to Union with intersection control. Just kind of more the scope of that.
That also is a design project, so the design is not done. We'll be doing it, but we're looking at a full urban development with streets, sidewalks, lighting, et cetera, through that whole area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the table? I'll move to adopt Resolution 2021-Next, a resolution of the San Benito County Planning Commission finding that the proposed 2021-2022 capital improvement plan is consistent with the county's general plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 4-0. Thank you. Item number 5. PLN 190056 Kawahara Agricultural Facility Use Permit.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. My name's Ariel Goodspeed. I'm a senior planner with the County of San Benito, and today I will be presenting the Kawahara Agricultural Nursery Facility located at 0 Anzar Road. It's APN 012-030-045. It's a use permit county file number PLN 190056. I just want to make sure my presentation goes up on the screen. My apologies. So, today I'll be going over the project location, the site plan, and project description. It's land use consistency, CEQA, some modified mitigation measures, and staff's recommendation. Sorry, before I go any further, I just need the next thing to go up on the screen. Let me trouble.
Yes. Please stand by. We need the music. Something. It's gonna be 4 hours.
Good. Can we get $10 an hour? Take home.
Can I request a short recess? IT's on their way.
Okay.
And we've been losing audio throughout the beginning of the,
Okay,
Tonight's
we will
meeting?
take a 10-minute recess
Yes,
until
thank
we get
you.
our technical issues resolved.
thank you so much.
Sorry, folks.
Okay. Should it be? My apologies about tonight's technical issues. I believe that we should be back up. Okay.
At least.
Okay. We're waiting.
I think that clock's broken. It's moving slow. If we can call the meeting back to order, please. Item number 5.
So I'm just going to resume where I was at and not start from the beginning if that's okay. So Kawahara Nursery, item 5. So today, planning staff actually has a little preview. We have a new GIS software system. It's called ArcGIS Urban. And we're going to use this project to showcase it. So as you can see from your packets, the site plan has been geo-referenced onto the project site. So this is the exact layout. We have here is Highway 101. This is Chittenden, the then goes to San Juan Highway. This is Anzar High School. And then down here is Anzar Road. Okay, I'll take it a little slower. So, so the project has proposed to have an 18,000 square foot overhang and a 36,000 square foot shipping and handling building, which is located right here. My mouse is not populating. It is on my screen, but it's not showing up. So the gray building off to the right. And then there's 518,000 square foot greenhouses. Those are indicated in green. In the center is an 18,000 square foot production greenhouse. You'll see that at the road goes all the way through to Anzar. And this is going to be aggregate base. Surrounding the greenhouses for circulation will be aggregate base. But along the entrance will be concrete. I'm going to move it down. and bring it around to the front here. So this is now looking south. Here's Highway 101. Here is the interchange. There is going to be a new turn lane coming off of Chittenden, all access to the project site. And truck movements will be coming off here and going in to the shipping and receiving building. It's going to be a 24-foot wide drive. It's going to generate approximately 62 trips in a day. There's going to be 10 to 15 employees. Surrounding the greenhouses will be 9 growing fields. There's currently a well that's being used for the site. There is also the San Benito County Water District blue line that comes up to the property that can be used as a backup source of water. So no, nope. We're just gonna have one of those nights, guys. Water. So currently, it's using a little over 600,000 gallons of water for the row crops of existing, and this proposed project actually will be using a little bit less. It's estimated about a little over 500,000 gallons of water. There's going to be one employee bathroom in the shipping and receiving building, and a septic system will be designed to environmental health standards. And then along San Juan Creek, there will be a stormwater channel to infiltrate any runoff so it doesn't go straight into the creek. And so, yes, so our trial run of our new 3D software system. So all of the building heights and greenhouses are maxing out at 15 feet high. So as you can see, at a ground level, it is relatively low to the surrounding land uses. And now back to the presentation. So this, per the general plan, it's a agricultural support uses is allowed use. It's consistent with zoning, agricultural productive zoning, and a conditional use for commercial greenhouses and accessory uses in buildings such as barns, fronts, outbuildings, and shipping and receiving containers for the project. As these are pictures of the current site conditions. It's row crop. The commercial greenhouse that's going in is for wholesale. It has no retail component. Max of 15 employees during the week. They'll be there between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. with some possible truck trips up to 10 p.m. and 1 to 2 employees on the weekends for watering and such purposes. So the initial study, MMD, was prepared for this project. It was circulated from April 26th to May 25th of this year. We received back 2 comment letters, one from California Department of Fish and Wildlife and one from the traffic engineer, Keith Higgins. And so I just want to discuss some modifications to 2 mitigation measures in response to these comments. Now, it is consistent with CEQA to allow for mitigation that's proposing no new impact. So the biology one, it was for mitigation measure bio-5, stream and wetland mapping and stream and wetland habitat mitigation. So the language that was added was just additional clarifying language from CDFW. The condition was existing, it just added some more details to it. The letter that we received from the traffic engineer put in there that essentially there's 62 trips. The morning peak hour trips, there was no additional delay, and that the PM trips was a 0.1 added delay in the PM peak hour. Now, mitigation measures are there to mitigate an impact, and this letter that was provided and with county staff review, we determined that there was no significant impact. And if there's no significant impact, then a mitigation measure is not needed. So that is why this was striked from the mitigation monitoring reporting program and included in your form resolution tonight. So to conclude, staff is recommending, based on the foregoing findings and considerations based on the evidence in the record, that you adopt the initial study, mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program with the substituted mitigation measures as discussed and included in the resolution, and to adopt the attached resolution for approval, PLN 190056, subject to the findings and conditions included within the resolution. I also have the project engineer who is representing the applicant, Alan Andrade, who can answer any technical questions you may have and can speak in addition to the project. If there's any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Is there any public comment first?
There's no public comment. Zoom.
Anyone in the gallery? Seeing none, commissioners, comments, questions?
Just to cover the drainage plan, so it's my understanding that most of the drainage will be contained in the site. There won't be any overflow, that much overflow, except in the event of a 100-year flooding event or something like that. Is that the correct conclusion from the drainage?
Yes, all drainage will be contained on site. Stormwater channel will be put in along San Juan Creek to make sure that no runoff is going directly into there, that it's all been infiltrated prior. Is there anything else I can answer?
Any other commissioners or Commissioner Pack, do you have more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Rodriguez?
Just kind of want to make it known for the public.
Are we still able to go into a development agreement, or are we past that stage?
That'd be a question for council.
Yeah.
Development agreements are typically prepared for longer term projects, like tentative subdivision maps where the build out extends over a period of time, and the purpose of the development agreement is in part to lock the entitlements in place as of the regulations in effect at the time the project is approved, and in exchange for that extension of the entitlement period, there are negotiated project benefits and other terms and conditions. For a conditional use permit of this nature, there's a requirement that it be constructed within a specific period of time, and if it's not, then they'd have to reapply for conditions. So it's conceivable that a development agreement could accompany a conditional use permit, but it's not offered, nor has it been requested in conjunction with this project.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to get at is the revenue that this project will bring to San Benito County, and one of my proposals was the use of direct pay permits. Kind of where does the company, where will they be buying most of their equipment? Will they be purchasing outside of the county, or or outside of the state?
I'm going to invite up the applicant's engineer, Alan.
Alan Andrade of MH Engineering. Thank you, commissioners, for taking the time to evaluate this and ask a question along those lines. When we first proposed the project to RMA Director Harry Mavroganez, he had a similar type of a question. And it was along the lines of, how can I substantiate what the benefit to the county will be from a financial concern with regard to approval of the CUP? It is not the intent of the applicant nor county staff to this point to even consider something that would be different than any other business that's operating in the county. Now, if you're asking for the applicant to commit to buying other materials in a specific location just to provide additional county benefit, that would have to be within the county ordinance to kind of allow you to ask for that. And so I defer to county council with regard to the ability to do so. But this is a local company. It is in Santa Clara right now. They have 2 locations, one in Morgan Hill, one in Gilroy. And their expansion plans for San Benito County, including San Benito County in this business, and the ability to employ San Benito County residents, some of which already work at the other plants, is the primary goal. Is they need to grow. Their other facilities are full, and they purchased this property 20 years ago, with this in mind, that when the other sites became full, or if development around the other sites prohibited them to expand, this would be the location they would go to. So, from regard to what sort of dollars and cents this is going to provide the county, it's going to be in line with every other business that's doing this type of work in the whole region and within the state.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion on the table?
I move to adapt the plan with the native declarations as proposed.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Motion is adopted. Was that motion clear enough, council?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Item number 6, Mendes temporary use permit.
Hi again. This is Ariel Goodspeed with the County Planning Department. And tonight I will be presenting the Mendes temporary use permit out at 7980 Lovers Lane. It is county file number PLN 210023. Hang on just a moment. I just want to make sure the PowerPoint can go up. Can we please take a short recess? I guess the video on Zoom is not working again. Maybe 5 minutes? 5-minute recess. I apologize.
5?
Yes?
Was that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess for additional technical issues. I apologize, folks.
I promise we will get through this. we have people from the public. So they're trying to push through at homecoming. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that there's not more people. I was actually trying to listen on Zoom and I couldn't get it. But I think we need to water because they're trying to mess with the water. Yeah. Well, and some of that came from the property that we live on because it was destroyed before. Well, yeah, they always leave a mess and then they go bankrupt and then everybody around their property gone. So, yeah, well, the other thing is,
Yeah, go for it, D. They're not muted either.
we're actually not doing that at this point. Which one? A little bit, but I have to have but we closed down part of our facility now. But again, well, it looks beautiful until they start running those trucks and all that mess up. Yeah, I tried to. Yeah. Oh, the church. Yeah. Hey, they're trying to get hold of those guys also because all of them. Yeah, the map, which is a really old map, it goes clear from the front. Testing 1, 2, 3. I can hear background, yes. I hear testing. Okay, we got confirmation they can hear. Okay. Let's well. I think I only have 2 people on, but I'm going to say 2 people who are long. Okay. So that's what I was trying to say. Yours was 3, mine was 4, next one's gonna be 5 for that. We're gonna wait because we had said like 20 minutes, and so we have to wait for people to come. this is just part of our technical world here, and sometimes things don't work out. And we have to troubleshoot, and we have to be flexible. Yeah. No. Yeah. No worries. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Okay. Let me ask. go to 6 for going live. Go in order.
Well, we're missing one person.
We're still okay, then we'll go to 7. Let me just make sure.
Item number 7.
Hi, Ariel Goodspeed. Our consultant with Benchmark Resources, Bob Delt, will be presenting tonight, and he will be via Zoom and should be going live now.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Bob Delp with Benchmark Resources. Can you hear me, Ariel?
Bob, if you would like to share your screen.
Yes, and are you able to hear me?
It popped up on the computer, your computer.
Yeah, it is. It's popping up here. It's just not popping up. Let me see now.
Sure.
Good evening, Ariel. I'm looking for confirmation.
Either that or at this point go back to 6 because the gentleman is in the gallery.
Ariel, I am sharing my screen.
It's on. There we go. We can see it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
thank
Bob,
you.
if you want to go ahead and start.
And you can hear me? It's unclear if you can hear me or not.
Bob, we can't hear you.
I am not muted.
Can we just go back to item number 6 and just follow the order now that this gentleman's back? Since it's our technical difficulties that have thrown the entire meeting into disarray. Okay, we'd like to go back to item number 6, please.
My apologies. Bob?
PLN 210023 Mendes temporary use permit. And for the folks at home, I apologize. We've suffered numerous technical issues and we've had several breaks, and now we're back and we're going to continue in order with item number 6.
Hi, Ariel Goodspeed, County Planner with today here to present the Mendes temporary use permit located at 7980 Lovers Lane, County file number PLN 210023. There we go. Okay, so we'll be going over the project's location, site plan, project description, its land use consistency, CEQA, and staff's recommendation tonight. So the project is located south of Highway 152, or also known as Pacheco Pass, and north of Shore Road, right along Lovers Lane. That's the red circle parcel. These are some site photos of the existing site conditions. This is about 400 feet or so into the drive, and the picture to the top right is looking east. Picture at the bottom is looking north, and picture at the bottom left is looking north, and picture at the bottom right is looking west. So the temporary use permit would allow live music events that would include food and alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverage. The food would be provided in food trucks that would be permitted through environmental health. So the new attractions is basically some live music, some dancing, food, beverages, and then the temporary structures include a stage for either the live or DJ band, 42 folding tables, porta potties and wash stations. A temporary electricity is provided by a generator, and then the food trucks. So this is the site plan. To the right is Lover's Lane. Circulation would be coming through and then entering at the red dot. Parking is to the left and the right on highlighted in the blue squares. And security and parking attendants would be posted at the entrance and to the site and entrance to the parking. So this is a little bit closer view. So this is looking north, and you'll have the stage north of the road, and the tables lined on either end, generators in the back, food truck or trucks posted up at the beginning of the in front of the tables, and restrooms near the entrance and exit with the wash stations. So it is consistent with general plan to allow visitor serving uses in agricultural areas. It is consistent for accessory uses under the AP zoning, and it is also consistent for allowing temporary use events as approved by the planning director to scale. So generally, these types of temporary use permits are approved by the planning director. But this project, we received several neighbor concerns. And so planning found that it would be appropriate to bring to the planning commission. From the time we received those neighbors' concerns and coming here, planning has worked with the applicant to address the three main concerns had to do with noise in that area, traffic and parking along Lover's Lane, and possible drinking and driving. So what the applicant and county staff has worked to do to mitigate these things, for the noise, all music will end by 8 p.m. Now, it is actually a pretty restrictive noise ordinance for this district. It's only 45 decibels measured from the property line during the day and 35 at night. And all the events are going to be they're going to be day events. There is only going to be a maximum of 12 events or 12 days. Now, temporary use permits allows up to 30. So this is more restrictive than what could be allowed. And then as far as the noise, ending all live music by 8 is additionally more restrictive. And this was, taken into consideration to make sure that all, neighbors could enjoy the area. As far as traffic and parking along Lover's Lane, there are conditions put into the temporary use permit that they have to coordinate with the sheriff's department. They they're going to have security, they're going to have parking attendants. There's also, they're going to notify all of the participants that if they do not park on site, then they would, their vehicles would be towed. So deterring anyone from parking along Lover's Lane and disturbing any of the neighbors in that manner. And then as far as the drinking and driving, measures done to help mitigate this is that with the ticket sales, there's a two drink at time with the sale. And also, as part of controlling alcohol and driving, there was going to be a cutoff of 1 hour prior to the event ending. There was also going to allow as much time as needed for anyone that needed to call a rideshare, taxi, or anything else to leave the premise safely. So in this manner, the applicant and county staff feel that the neighbors' concerns have been addressed, and with the conditions provided, would be able to have an event that is appropriate to the surrounding land uses. It was determined to be categorically exempt for existing facilities, section 15301, and minor alterations to land, section 15304. So staff recommends that based on the foregoing findings and considerations and evidence of the record, that they adopt the attached resolution for approval, County File PLN 210023, subject to the findings and conditions of the approval included within the resolution. So the applicant, Jorge Mendes, is here and would like to speak. If you would like to have him first, I can also take any questions at this time.
If we could hear from the applicant, please.
Yes, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jorge Mendes, applying in Lover's Lane. We moved our family here 6 years ago now. I've been doing this entertainment business for about 15 years. I've also taken every single step to make sure the community is safe, our families are safe, because these are events where actually I can take my enjoy it, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to make sure that the families in the area can actually come out with their kids and enjoy themselves. It's not a nightclub atmosphere. It is more of a day event and a family-driven event. We have been working with planning. We have done this, like I said, for about 15 years. We take all the safety protocols, security, parking attendants, health department, and we take all that into consideration. And least of one cost, we don't want to cost anything with our neighbors. Therefore, we have enough property where we can house and park as many cars that can come in. That's basically, I want you guys to hear that.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question for you, sir.
I have 3 questions for you regarding this application. The first is in regards to the sound. Have you consulted or worked out a sound management plan with an acoustic engineer?
We do have sound engineers at every single event. Like I said, I've been doing this for a real long time. 10 years ago, I ran the Morgan Hill Rancho Grande, which Entitled is very similar to what we're trying to do here, and it was also noise contained. Okay. So we do have sound engineers. It's actually a real professional atmosphere and employees that come in. We have acoustic people that come in, make sure the sound's there, and thus, we'll be taking care of that.
Okay. Have you considered possibly adding acoustic barriers or acoustic walls around the edges of the site to mitigate sound impacts?
We've talked about it. Again, this is a temporary thing. We want to see how it works out, if we're okay with the neighborhood. At some point, our theme is mainly an outdoor event, so it doesn't feel like you're in the hall, and that you're more freely to have more fun, and that's what we're trying to create. We have thought about building something so it would be indoor, but that would kind of take a little way of enjoying the atmosphere and having an outdoor event.
Okay. The next question I have for you is, as I understand it, you're anticipating crowds of 200 to 400. Now, is that anticipating traffic of 200 to 400 people into the parking lots? Especially because, as I see it, there's sort of one entrance and one exit for lovers.
Yes, we work with the fire department, and we also work with the code enforcement that went out. The actual lane is big enough for a 2 road in and out. Our entrance to the actual event area is a little bit over 500 feet. So what we do, we have a parking attendant in the front and a security car in the front, so they prevent people from parking and also guiding them towards the entrance to the parking, which we will not be holding traffic back, because like I said, it will be about 500 feet before they even stop, and they'll be basically directed where they'll be parked at.
So you're anticipating maybe a maximum of 400 vehicles for an event?
No, this
or-
is, well, you do about 4 to 6 people per car, so if it's 400 people, no more than 100 cars, 150 cars, if that.
Okay, okay. And the next question is in regards to the drinks. You'll be serving cocktails as well as wine and beer as far as alcoholic
It's
beverages?
not in our plans right now.
Okay.
It's more, like I said, a day event.
Mhm.
So we try to stay away from as much as alcohol,
Mhm.
or hard alcohol at this point. And if that, people will be getting carded, they'll be tagged, they'll be wristband, and that's how we're able to tell who can buy and who cannot buy a beer.
So it would only be beer and wine? It
At
would
this
not be
point,
hard liquor?
mainly beer, yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Pack, any other questions?
No, those were my questions.
Not right now. Any other questions?
I just have one question. I don't know if maybe for yourself or for staff. So when you said parking attendance or traffic mitigation, my only concern was that left, if they were going to the event, that left turn on Lover's Lane, will they have somebody doing, I don't know what the,
There will be traffic control at the entrance of Lover's Lane, coordinating people in. Fire has also gone out and made sure that there's appropriate signage at the front of the wall. On one of my first images, if they show up the screen, I can show it again. And so there will be people directing, making sure that everyone is coming in safely throughout the event.
okay.
I have a question for you, Mr. Mendez. Have you had events at this location before?
We have.
Okay. Have you measured the decibel levels?
No, we have not.
Okay. That would be my concern.
So, county staff does have the ability to record decibel measures, and as part of the conditions included in the resolution, prior to any event, they have to notify staff as well as the other agencies that they are hosting event 2 weeks prior. So 2 weeks prior, we can make sure to coordinate, and if we need to, have someone out to measure decibel levels.
Okay. So then if there's a continued issue, that permit would be revoked, is that?
Yes, and that's included under the conditions.
Okay. Commissioner Scagliotti?
I have one question. Has the sheriff been called out there to your prior
Events?
functions?
Yeah,
Events?
yeah, they've been there a couple of times. They said, they checked out the noise. It wasn't a site, but people do call, and they were fine with it.
They haven't had to arrest anybody for fighting or anything? Nothing like that?
Not at all, not at all. They usually, they would come in, they would drive by, they're trying to figure out what's going on. They show you to see what's going on, they walk away. 2 times, if you recall, they were actually just called for the noise complaint. And when they got there, it wasn't no issue at all. The noise was low enough where the sheriff didn't cite us, arrest anybody, or tell us to shut it down at all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would also like to make a note that code enforcement did investigate an additional noise complaint on Lover's Lane, and in discovery found that it wasn't this property but an additional property. So there are additional properties in the area that have also hosted some sort of events that have caused a noise disturbance. So code enforcement is currently actively investigating this and dealing with that issue.
Okay. So I have a question for you, Ariel.
Yes.
Other than the yucca or whatever those plants are along the road, are there any other green sound barriers that would block the noise for the neighbor's benefit?
Yeah, so those are all palm trees that are lining the drive. There are not additional measures, except that part of the design of where the stage is set up is it's a 10.8 acre parcel, and it's located in the back center to be the furthest away from all of the property neighbors.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Seeing none, are there any public comments? We'll start with Zoom.
I see none via Zoom.
Okay. Comments from the gallery? Do we have comment? If you could call.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for hearing us out. I'm a resident of Lover's Lane at the 7800 block. So in past unsanctioned events at the same property, we've had noise issues. It's a floodplain, so the sound carries to the south and to the east extremely well. There's nothing to block it. So I don't know what he's done to attenuate the sound. That's a good point that I think he does need to do testing and barriers, because an open forum like that it allows the sound to carry all over, especially to the east and to the south of us, or to the subject property. And in past events, we've had people leaving the parties inebriated and driving fast. And as you know, Lover's Lane is a very narrow road. I don't think it meets current code for a county road. So it has a lot of potholes, and the edges are very uneven. So what happened in the past was people didn't want to pay the entrance fee, and they would park on the road and block people's driveways and create a more narrow hazard, because it's a very narrow road to begin with. So I think 200 to 400 cars, that road can't handle that. So if they were all directed back in and out to 152, might be feasible if we did some road improvements. But the other thing I've noticed on the property is there's no way you're parking a bunch of vehicles on dry land with weeds, unless they've dissed it. So you got these catalytic, 200 to 400 cars with catalytic converters that are hot. And in the summer, there's no source of water out there. There's no tank. We have no fire hydrants. So even us as residents are required to have a water tank in front of our house, a 5,000 gallon minimum. So that's not been addressed. So those are my issues. The noise just, we're in a floodplain, so it just really moves around out there. Right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Michelle Schroeder.
Good evening. I am a resident of the county. My name is Michelle Schroeder. I live at 7860 Lovers Lane, less than half a mile away from the subject property. I'm speaking against the granting of this permit. As noted, the events proposed by this application have actually been occurring for quite some time, apparently without a permit. The events are noisy with loud music and, I might add, obnoxiously loud DJs. I can hear the noise from inside my house with the doors and windows shut. Every time this happens, my husband and I put up with it for hours until we finally call the sheriff, usually after 10 p.m. While I appreciate Ms. Goodspeed's attempt to mitigate the impacts of this event center on the neighborhood, I have very little confidence that the proposed limitations will be enforced. Will the county be on site the day of the event to measure the decibels? Will the county be on site to make sure that the music stops at 8 p.m.? Will the county be there to make sure that the participants have only 2 drinks? What if there are more than 12 events per year? Will the county be on site to shut down the 13th event? I fear that the burden of enforcement will fall on the residents of Lovers Lane, and we will do the only thing that we can do, call the sheriff. Is this a really a good use of limited law enforcement resources? The staff report makes reference to this being consistent with the general plan, specifically policy 3.7, visitor serving uses in agricultural areas. That policy mentions as examples wine tasting rooms and bed and breakfast inns, uses that encourage tourism, especially tourism related to agriculture. The events contemplated in this application seem very different. They are not designed to encourage people to stay in our county and buy our wine, for instance. People who live on Lovers Lane can expect to put up with certain inconveniences, farm equipment noise, animal noises and smells, all the hassle that comes with living in a flood zone. But one thing I did not expect when I moved to Lover's Lane was having to put up with an event center where people pay to have parties with hundreds of people and blare loud music in our countryside neighborhood on an otherwise peaceful Sunday evening. This use is not consistent with the agricultural character of Lover's Lane, and I urge you to deny it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mark Schroeder.
Hi, my name is Mark Schroeder. That's bad. Yes, I'm a resident of Lover's Lane at 7860. Michelle's my wife, and it's going to be a tough act to follow, actually. I'll do my best. I wanted to mention that I am against also granting of this, and I have a deed called the sheriff. After talking to my neighbors, including Carlos Escona and some others who were bothered by it, and on one occasion in December of last year, and this is one of 6 occasions, so it is not 2 occasions, it was more like 6. And on one of those occasions, I received back the following message, and if I could go ahead and play that for you.
Yes, this is Sergeant Lobdell with the San Benito County Sheriff's Office. I'm calling for Mr. Schroeder. I understand about the disturbance, ongoing loud music and concert that appears to be going on Lover's Lane. I'm out there. I've talked to the responsible. They are shutting it down. It is definitely a considerable operation. I get your issues with it, with the light show and noise. So they should be done in the next few minutes. I'm going to remain in the area until then. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to give me a call.
And that was after 8 o'clock. That was actually closer to 9 o'clock. And as I said, that was only on one occasion. And what the deputy was referring to is a laser light show, as well as amplified music, and he referred to it as being several thousand watts. And when my wife referred to feeling the music or hearing it inside the house, the bass is such that, and don't get me wrong, we can hear the voices as well, the mid-range, you can hear everything. But the bass is so intense that it's actually turning the house into a resonator such that you feel like you're inside of a drum. So the 45 decibel limit is absolutely, given that we're over a quarter-mile distant, it has not been adhered to, and there's no confidence whatsoever that it will be, because this has been on 6 occasions. And we have had to put up with traffic, as my neighbor Carlos has mentioned. We've had to put up with several other things, including the lasers, and we have also dealt with dust issues.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm cut off. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
No more speaker cards.
Any questions or comments, thoughts from the commissioners?
Ms. Goodspeed, what input or comment has been made with regards to by the Sheriff's Department or the Fire Department with regards to this plan? Have they been consulted in this?
Yes, the sheriff had no comments when the application was referred over to them. And the fire department actually had done an entire inspection and had included that, a sign needed to be at the front, fire extinguishers, life, health, safety inspection needed to be done at the day of the event. All of those items are included as conditions into the resolution. So both were conferred on this proposed project, and all of their requirements or recommendations were included into the resolution.
I have a question a further question for Mr. Mendes, which is, Mr. Mendes, if you could comment for us about what measures you'll be taking to comply with the dark skies rule and the lighting rule in light of the public testimony with regards to laser light shows?
We can definitely work on the lighting and the lasers. Like I said, it's all professional engineers, so that you can actually put it a certain direction where it will just either face down in that area and will not shoot up. What I find hard to believe is there's a huge line of trees, maybe 50 feet tall, across from us, so I don't see how those lasers would affect any of the neighborhood at the time. Also, the complaint from the sheriff, the phone call, I was under understanding that you can have loud noise at the time. This is before we start working with the county, before 10 p.m. Most of my shows ended way before 10 p.m. If you notice, the call was around 9-ish. For the same reason, like I said, I have my kids there, I want to go home, I want to go sleep. The reason why we're doing 8 o'clock is also so we can be able to clean up, before it gets any darker, and people actually get to leave on time. And I don't want to finish a show at midnight and have to wait till 1, 2 in the morning for somebody to get an Uber. Also, reason why we're finishing early. Parking attendants have been taken care of. Been given directions on how to drive traffic inside. If you see Lover's Lane, might not be big enough as a city street, but you fit 18-wheelers that are going in there and a bus at the same time on the same road. So the road is, maybe it's not as huge, but it is a good size. That's one. Parking is, as far as long going on Lover's Lane, it really doesn't happen. I mean, our property is over 1,000 feet long on Lover's Lane. So if anybody parks on the street, which, like I said, it will not be happening in this event, it will still be all driveway. And it not at any point affected the actual road. So I understand the concerns of the neighborhood. That's why we're also working with, the county and with planning, so we can take care of all that. And again, we're trying to do the proper thing here. I understand there was events before. I took a fall for it. I paid some fines on it as well, and we're trying to do the right thing. We also are concerned for the drinks. We also spoke with planning on even hiring a couple of deputies, which I used to do before at the events we did in Morgan Hill. A couple of deputies in the front. Obviously, we all know you see a deputy, you tend to slow down by yourself. I don't have to tell you, you'll stop drinking, you'll see the deputy, you will stop on your own. And we're also working on that. We propose that if needed, and if it makes our neighbors feel a lot safer, we have no issue hiring a couple of deputies during our events. And again, it will not be 200, 400 cars. I mean, we're looking at 200, 400 people. In this day and age, who really goes by themselves to an event? We're not going to have 400 cars. And like I said, we're doing the proper thing. We're trying to do it properly. We're trying to finish events early. And obviously, there's only one way to find out. This is a permit that can get revoked. And that's...
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Pack, any other questions?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yeah, it was just the question for staff. What would the ramifications be if, say, this an applicant is denied and they continue to do these events? What would is there a...
That would be a code compliance case. They would potentially face being red tagged, sanctioned, could be fines. There are a number of different avenues that the county has when folks are in violation.
And if they were denied by the planning commission, one of their administrative remedies is to approach the board of supervisors on appeal and request that they reconsider your actions.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
No questions at this time.
If I could just add one thing, we're trying to get our permits. We're trying to do it properly. Again, it's a permit can get revoked. If we're not following, what we are set out to do, I have no issue stopping. To me, this is a business that I can do from home, that I want to do from home. I do have other avenues of revenue, but this is something that I enjoy doing, and I enjoy doing it because my family is a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
all I ask is give us a chance. Let's do it right, and if we cannot comply with what you ask, I have no issue stopping.
Thank you.
I have a question for County Council. Mr. Ellenwood, at this time, would it be appropriate for members of the Planning Commissioner to suggest amendments to the conditional use plan?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, there are 4 possible amendments that I would like to suggest that we consider before approving this plan. The first is a stipulation that no hard liquor will be served at events, just because a 2-drink limit, cocktails, a Long Island iced tea may contain far more alcohol than a beer or a wine. That's the first condition I propose. Second condition that I propose that we amend to this conditional use plan is for water tankage or, some sort of water on site to assist with fire. A third condition that I would like to suggest is a condition about hiring deputies for security purposes at events. Fourth condition is, I asked about the possibility of temporary sound barriers. Commissioner Gibson asked about the possibility of trees or green barriers. So having the conditional permit contingent on a sound engineering mitigation plan that does discuss possible infrastructure, barriers, and/or greenage that will act to reduce the sound coming from out of the site, and also addressing the mitigation against laser and excessive lights. So I think those are, five additional amendments that we would like to have, or that I would like to suggest before we consider and finalize approval of this conditional use. Do the other commissioners have comments?
Commissioner Rodriguez?
I think there was a fire concern on the dirt or the grass, and that's been addressed, you said, Ariel, already by?
Yeah, they were, fire had them do weed abatement. That was also going to be a requirement for the property. But we can do additional water storage that is being proposed.
And that's the 5,000 gallon, was it 5,000 gallon requirement or something like that?
These were temporary events. Usually the water storage requirement is for permanent structures, but we can work with fire to get an appropriate water storage an amount. Generally, those gallon tanks are the 5,000 gallon storage tanks.
Actually, I suppose that does lead to an additional question for Mr. Mendes. Mr. Mendes, are these events on, sort of more rainy winter events, are there going to be tents or kind of overhead coverings at the site for some of the events?
Would normally be during the summer. That's the idea for only 8 to 12 events max, and it'll be a summer thing. We're also working with fire for approval on tents. So if we could probably get a tent big enough to enclose some of the sound, it could probably work out. I have no issue with any of the concerns you guys have and the recommendation you're making. That's not an issue at all.
I also have the fire chief on Zoom, and he can speak if that's okay with the commission.
Yes.
Okay.
His comments.
Chief Padola.
Chief Padola, you should be allowed to talk.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello?
If you're by phone, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you're via Zoom, you press the mute button
Hi, can you hear me? 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 Hi, can you hear me?
Really? Really?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
My apologies, give us a minute.
Huh. Interesting.
Charlie, to keep talking.
Okay, give
Can you
me,
guys hear me?
Oop.
yes, I can hear my computer. Yes, bring the speaker to the computer.
Still hear me?
Yeah, okay, Charlie, we put the microphone up to the computer speaker. Go ahead and try.
Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Hang on.
Well, I don't need to go to the gym. It should just be coming through the audio. Yeah. Wait, hang on. He's got his hand down. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna put you up to the speaker here and see if this works, okay? You. Yeah. Check. Sorry. Going back. I'm going back and forth. Allowed to talk. Wait, it says. Talk is good. Looks like you got.
All right, how about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. I'm gonna get off.
Hang on, almost there.
Is that what he meant? Almost there?
How about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Darn Zoom. The Goonies are out there today. So we could talk about the fire requirements there. I did go out there. I did talk to them. We did talk about life safety aspects. We did talk about the weed abatement. I think if he positioned it to point towards the west, away from everything, that would help to mitigate it if he relocated speakers. But as far as the long term and for future, we were talking about water storage out there also. He would have to weed abate it all the way down, weed abate where the parking's at, the roadway into it, and then some water storage. And we would do at least a 5,000 gallon tank with some refill rate to be able to suppress the fire that was out there. And he had agreed on all that stuff. That was something for the future, but if we want to have him do as a conditions of approval, that would be fine too.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Sorry about all this.
Ariel.
I have a question for you, Ariel. There was other applicants that have brought forward events.
We've had them do
plantings to block the noise from the neighbors, but
I don't
I don't
see
see any
condition for that. I know it is 10 huge acres. I'm on 15, and when my neighbor, I won't say who, turns up her music, you can hear everything, and she's not that close. So I can understand the neighbor's concerns about being by an entertainment venue when they moved out to the country. So why don't we have mitigation measures?
Well, we can definitely go back and include a condition for some sound barriers, whether it be vegetation or temporary structures. That is not a problem.
Okay. So I think that addressed all of your concerns. Are there any other concerns or comments from the commissioners while we're adding to the conditions?
Yeah, it was just a clarification to Devin. You said something about deputies. What, I don't know, like, I just heard someone say security or deputies, and
Well, a part of the, amendments to the conditional use permit would be an expectation and a stipulation that, an off-duty deputy would be hired to act as on-site security and to basically ensure and mitigate against the risk of drunk driving at the events.
so you're saying like an off-duty, like one of our off-duties, or he, like who's providing that? The county or the individual?
That the event coordinator, much like other event coordinators in other counties, would be under the expectation to hire, at least one law enforcement agent to act as a part of as a component of their on-site security for events.
Got it. That's fine.
Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
I have a motion to deny.
Is there a second?
My motion would be a different motion, which would be a motion to table.
Okay, so there is no second. So the motion dies. Is there another motion?
My motion would be to table this item for further review and for amendment, for discussion, once the amendments to the conditional use permit have been added.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second this motion.
All those in favor say aye to continue. Is there a date certain? Or next meeting, 2 months?
Well, I suppose that is a question for the RMA. How rapidly do you think we would be able to get amendments to the conditional use permit that address these items?
Amendment process would be fairly straightforward. I do want to make sure that we have the wording that you're suggesting. So if I can just clarify what we would, what staff would be adding.
The 5 amendments that have been proposed is one, the addition of a 5,000-gallon water tank at the site per the fire chief's suggestions. The second item would be a stipulation that no hard liquor would be served at events at the site, to mitigate against drunk driving. The third stipulation is that a condition of events would be that a law enforcement officer would be hired to be a part of the security component at events.
And you said one or more? Sorry, just to clarify.
One or more law enforcement officers will be expected to be a part of the security component at, events. That an acoustic engineer be consulted, and that a acoustic mitigation plan that may possibly include temporary and or permanent sound barriers and or vegetation and trees to mitigate a sound impact to the site be presented with the conditional use permit. That's the fourth condition. And the fifth condition is a plan for the mitigation of lighting impacts from events be included with the condition. So those are the 5 amendments that I would like to propose for the conditional use permit.
Okay, just to clarify again, a mitigation on the light or prohibition? I thought I heard you say prohibition initially.
Mitigation to ensure that it complies with the dark skies rule as listed under condition 8.
Uh-huh.
So we need to see a presentation for how light and lasers will be mitigated, that there will not be light intrusion on neighboring properties.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So the next hearing would be July 21st?
Okay.
Do you anticipate that you would be able to have the language to those amendments for the July 21st hearing? Okay. So in that case, I move that we table this until the addition of the amended language, which is anticipated to be next month's hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second agenda item number 6, Mendes temporary use permit.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No?
Aye.
No.
3-0. 3-1, sorry. You're good. Okay, so we're going to continue that item until next month, pending 5 additional conditions. Thank you. Item number 7. Mine ID 91-35-015 Nash Road Sandman Interim Management Plan.
I'd like to introduce again Bob Delp with Benchmark Resources, who will be doing tonight's presentation.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Bob, we can see your screen.
Are you able to hear me?
I cannot hear you.
I am speaking. Can you hear me now? I am prepared to get started as soon as you confirm.
Can you hear?
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Are we ready to get going?
Can the audience hear? Yes. Okay.
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 I'm speaking now, so we're okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. I appreciate the struggles that you're having with technology this evening, and I hope to not contribute to that anymore.
I'm sorry, Bob. Hold on just a moment. Why don't you mute yourself here, and I'm going to call through the phone and put the speaker to the phone and see if it works that way, okay?
Okay.
Hello? Okay, I'm putting you live. Okay, can everyone hear?
Good evening, Commissioners. Are you able to hear me? We're on mute also because I'm hearing a lot of echo.
Okay, I'm walking.
Okay, this is Bob Delp. Is that working okay? Yes, and I'm hearing some feedback also. I think if others that have Zoom.
Yeah. We might need to. Or get rid of Zoom.
The problem is we have 3 different systems that all have to be synchronized and initiated in the right order. People haven't had the appropriate
Oh. 5?
At this time, if I
Yeah.
may make a public comment, I would like to request that the IT department and the resource management department, prior to the next planning commission, have a dress rehearsal meeting usage of this area in order to troubleshoot and prepare for technical difficulties that may arise. That way, we do not have a disruption of our next public meeting. So I would like to request that you pencil some time to come in here and practice and really troubleshoot all of the technology that you're going to be using at the next meeting.
Thank you. For the members of the public, whether you're in the gallery or on Zoom, we're going to have to take an additional couple of minutes here because of a technical issue. I apologize.
You know, we don't do this every day, so something like this is coming up, it's potentially going to affect our surrounding areas. Yeah, I bet.
They're wanting me to maybe present his presentation. Possibly, if we can't get him up and running. I haven't gone through it, so.
We're not doing it the other way, so we're not broadcasting, so the sound would come through this. Hold on, I'm just trying to troubleshoot on the fly.
Yeah. Good. The sound's on. Does that make a difference?
Try it. Can you ask him to speak?
Bob, can you try speaking?
Yes, I am speaking now. Can you hear me? I am speaking now. I am speaking now. Can you hear me, Ariel?
Bob, can you do a tester speaking again?
I am speaking now. Can you hear me? I am speaking. I am speaking now, Ariel.
He's saying he is speaking. Yeah. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
I am still.
I will wing it. Hey, Bob. Bob, I'm going to do the presentation, and then I will try to put you on the speaker at the very end to answer questions.
The members of the public, whether they're in the gallery or outside or on Zoom, we're going to call the meeting back to order. We're working around our technical issues.
Okay. Hi, Ariel Goodspeed. I am going to be going through the Nash Road Quarry Interim Management Plan. So today we're going to go through the background and status, SMARA and County Idle mine requirements, the proposed interim management plan, IMP review and conditions of approval, and recommendation. So Sandman or Nash Road Quarry, it's located on the west side of town off of Nash Road and just south of the sewer treatment plant and west of West Side Road and east of Riverside Road. There are 8 contiguous parcels, approximately 132 acres. North downstream of Nash Road along the San Benito River west of the city of Hollister. There's a gated entrance from Nash Road. There are no fences across the river channel. The riparian and upland habitats. Substantial disturbance in former processing site area and unauthorized trespass motor vehicle use. So some of the existing conditions. It is bisected by San Benito River Channel. River flows south to north. The site entrance is from Nash Road, northeast of Nash Road Bridge. It's a remnant processing facility from former operations. The east side upland areas and the west side upland areas, as you can see on the map. So some of the quarry background. So the permit for processing the plant was issued to Hollister Sand and Gravel in 1959. No use permit reclamation plan was required. Surface Mining and Reclamation Act, SMARA, was enacted in 1975, which required all surface mines to have a reclamation plan. Hollister Sand and Gravel Reclamation Plan, prepared and approved by the county in 1977. Sandman Inc. acquired the properties in 1986 and continued operations. Additional background. In 1989, the county ordered Sandman to cease operations, and no on-site mining or processing has occurred since. The legal dispute resulted in a Superior Court decision in 2000 and 2001 defining geographic scope and depth of vested right. Reinitiation of mining requires, among different things, an amendment to the 1977 Reclamation Plan. So this is not to allow mining to occur. This is not what's being proposed to you tonight. Sandman has submitted proposed amendments to the 1977 Reclamation Plan 2003, 8, 17, 2018, and 2019, none of which were a complete enough application to proceed. They're working on another revised reclamation draft. So submittals are not complete and not sufficient at this time for county review. So this, so the current status is that no mining, processing, or other site issues are permitted until such time an amendment to the 1977 Reclamation Plan may be approved by the county, and until Sandman obtains all the other regulatory approvals and permits necessary to reinitiating mining. And the potential for reinitiation of mining at the site is not the subject of tonight's hearing. So what we are here to do is to manage the property while in the interim of mining. So as under SMARA and our county mining ordinance, Sandman is required to submit mining operation annual reports and maintain financial assurance for the site. This has been done and they're in compliance. And the county conducts these annual inspections and verification of financial assurance. The last inspection was done in October of 2020, and it was just submitted to DMR last week, so they are current. So Nash Road Quarry is an idle with an intent to resume mining, and SMARA and County Surface Mining Ordinance require an interim management plan when a mine is idle. So county has not previously required an IMP for the Nash Road Quarry, in part due to Sandman's intent to obtain approval of the amendment to the 1977 Reclamation Plan. Recognizing need for more formal oversight of ongoing site management activities, in June 2020, the Resource Management Agency directed Sandman to submit a complete application to amend the 1977 Reclamation Plan or to submit a proposed IMP. So, receiving neither, in November, Resource Management Agency directed Sandman to submit a proposed IMP. We wanted to make sure that the property was being managed until such time that we were able to get the reclamation plan in place. So Sandman's proposed interim management plan. Sandman compiled with RMA's November 2020 directive and submitted a proposed IMP in January 2021. We reviewed, staff reviewed, and Sandman made revisions addressing RMA's comments that resulted in currently recommending the IMP dated April 2nd, 2021. And what does an IMP specifically address? What does it manage? What's being done? So it's installation and maintenance of the fire access roads, it's stabilization of access road disturbance areas, it's installation and maintenance of perimeter access controls, so fencing, maintenance of vegetation as required for fire protection, monitoring of access, security of the site, and coordination with county sheriff and fire departments. So this is a site plan that is submitted as part of your staff report tonight, and it is the site access roads for managing the property as proposed. So the State Division of Mine Reclamation, also referred to as DMR, reviewed and had no comments on the proposed IMP. DMR has been notified of the Planning Commission's hearing as required by SMARA. The IMP complies with SMARA and County Code IMP content requirements. The IMP will provide for more clearly defined ongoing site management activities. The IMP approval is exempt from CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. The IMP with recommended conditions of approval will reduce the potential for adverse environmental effects associated with site management activities. So the recommended conditions of approval as included in the resolution include requirements such as indemnity the county against legal action, document compliance with the IMP, and with any applicable federal, state, and local regulatory approvals associated with IMP activities, fund all costs associated with regulatory compliance and inspections, provide annual notices of non-abandonment in compliance with the county surface mining ordinance, implement particular emission controls during site activities, provide cultural resource and human domain protection provisions, restrict site activities between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays and Saturdays, and implement trespass control provisions, fence maintenance, signage, security patrols, etc. So, included on each of yours was one additional condition of approval that was specified after we had produced the packet. It particularly addresses security that had been discussed within the staff report, but not explicitly brought as a condition before you. And So after conducting the public hearing, considering public input, it's recommended that to planning condition to adopt the resolution approving the National Quarry Interim Management Plan and adopted the recommended conditions of approval, including the addition of condition number 14 that is in red. I do have the applicant engineer, Alan Andrade, who can provide additional technical expertise and would also like to, on the applicant's behalf, speak to the added condition, if that's acceptable.
Mr. Andrade.
Hello again, Commission. Alan Andrade, MH Engineering, applicant's engineer for this project. I'm going to cut straight to the chase in the interest of time. Condition 14 was provided to us today at 4 o'clock. We really haven't had a chance to even consider it appropriately, but within it, it has a requirement for a private security patrol that is ambiguous in regard to what would constitute compliance with that. We feel it's inappropriate from the perspective of the time that it was provided to us and the lack of clarification with regard to what would constitute compliance. But also, you know, trespass is a separate issue that's been ongoing in the river for every property and really doesn't have anything to do with the IMP. The IMP specific has security fences. We're doing everything we can as a property owner. It's spelled out in the IMP in detail in each section. And we know it's a problem, but if your decision would hinge on the requirement for a private security patrol at an unknown interval with an unknown amount of manpower required, you know, does a private security patrol have the ability to do anything about a trespasser? Are they going to be making citizens arrests? Are they going to be armed? Really, the IMP is set up so that the owner and the sheriff are working on a daily basis, as they have been, to try to remedy this problem. My proposal would be to have you consider removing the condition 14 outright because it was provided at such a late time and doesn't necessarily apply to long-term interim management. It's strictly related to an ongoing trespass issue that we all know about that is not solved, or there's no benefit to having this condition. The rest of the conditions, the presentation, you know, even with the technical difficulties, I think Ariel did the best job possible, and we appreciate your consideration of all elements. I really only have the issue with the private security patrol language within condition 14 that was thrown out the last second.
Thank you. Commissioner, comments?
Mr. Andrade, I have a question. Could you speak to us about what are the current security arrangements at the site? Could you describe that to us?
Current security arrangements consist of when there's an issue, sheriff and the project attorney have been talking. This happens on probably about 4 times a year, trying to figure out ways to do things better, modify perimeter controls to whatever extent is possible. The real problem with trespass in this area, and you know, anyone who's grown up in the county or lived here long enough understands that the river itself is treated almost like a vehicular recreation park, almost like Hollister Hills without the entry fee. We can't put fences or permanent barriers across the river. It's a river, we need to maintain that flow, that's primary. So trespass control with respect to, hey, put a big fence around the whole thing, that's gonna solve it. It's not. If you've noticed in the last 3 years, a fence has been installed that's far more substantial than what was there along Nash Road. Within days of it being put up, it was cut down. I've seen vehicles go through it on a routine basis. As soon as it's repaired, it's gone. Posting of no trespassing signs, they do it as much as possible, but it's a fruitless effort. They disappear as soon as they're put up or within the evening. Those are the things I can say on the applicant's behalf with my limited amount of ability right now.
Mr. Andrade, to your knowledge, how often does the owner perform inspections of the site, or you know, how often do they look over the site?
The owner has, there's a trailer on it with a residence that's not necessarily going to be a security patrol, but makes the owner aware when there's something that they deem that unsafe is happening on the property, so the owner is aware. What can an owner do in this situation where it's a large piece of property? They don't have the ability to really go down and patrol with the number of individuals that are trespassing. So notification is made to the sheriff, the owner's attorney and the sheriff talk, and it's a struggle. City of Hollister is dealing with it. Every property owner along the river is worried about it and trying to deal with it. It's not something that should put the IMP in jeopardy, because the IMP truly is something that the county has asked for. I think that we've worked hard with RMA staff to provide something that dictates what sort of management operations need to go on to ensure that both fire and sheriff can get out there when they need to. First of all, where these encampments are happening, it's not just on this property, it's on city property to the north as well. It's on other properties, the Granite Rock owns to the south, all along the river. It's an area-wide problem, but what the IMP actually allows to do is allows us to regrade some of those old quarry access roads so that fire and sheriff can actually get out to the spots easily. That we're providing gates that have the Knox box locks so that they can get in whenever they need to. We've filed a letter with the sheriff 2 years in a row that says, hey, we have a trespass problem, please help us. That is kind of the limit to what the applicant can do.
Okay. Thank you. Before we go to public comment, are there any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
I have two procedural questions for County Council. The first off is it would be appropriate within our power to make a motion to remove a condition from a resolution. That's my first question. And my second question is whether it is procedurally possible for us within due process to kind of have a segmented or conditional use wherein we have a conditional permission of this resolution pending a further amendment and resolution that reflects this condition 14 once there's been more discussion and input from the owner. So basically allowing us to come back to the security issue.
Well, if you simply want to strike or amend that section, we don't need to come back. You could just do that as part of the amendment.
Okay, but I mean, I do see a utility in addressing the security. I just do not necessarily want it to impede with the improvements to the fire access roads.
So you could strike that part about
Okay.
hiring private security. You could strike the entire section 14.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Scaliotti?
I move that we strike number 14 completely.
Well, okay, we're going to go to public comment and see what the public has to say first. Anyone on Zoom? Can we hear you?
Yes, we have a raised hand. Vanderpool, if you would like to have your comments, I am unmuting you now. So Vanderpool, you can either press the unmute button to speak if you're on Zoom, or star 6 to unmute yourself by phone.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yes.
We can hear you.
I can see you.
I live, in fact, you can see me sitting out here. I live to where the quarry is right here. And as this has been on, there has been a car speeding by. I know that they try to keep people out. I'm disappointed that the city hasn't done more to keep them out. I can show you right now, since you can see me, night before last, we had a kid down here, and I actually had to call 911 because we had a fire right behind my house. You can't keep them out. So I agree with some of what they're saying. However, we do need to make sure there's some kind of security down here because it has gotten worse in the last 2 years, and many of us are concerned about the speeding cars, the terrain. They're coming down from up by Apricot, and that's not even the quarry's area. it belongs to the city or Grimsley or whoever it belongs to, that's where most of them are coming through, and they're coming down the hill. My biggest concern about the mining is that, and then the concern for, our pets and other wildlife. But I know I've talked to the manager, and he's, when they built the access roads, they were concerned about that. They left trees. But there is, just to put on record, there is a major issue with the amount of cars that have come by since they've made that access road, and they speed. And, it just, with summer and the dry heat and campfires, it's worrisome. And I would just like it addressed. I understand the whole issue with security and not being able to, and I don't want to stop them necessarily. I just want to make sure that every precaution possible is taken, and that the city is aware that the problem has gotten worse and worse. And the new park, I think, has opened it up even more, because now there's another access for them. And that's really all I have to say. And I'm speaking on behalf of several neighbors with that concern of the amount of trafficking, whether it's foot, car, whatever, in the last couple of years, people staying there.
Thank you. Are there additional public comments on Zoom?
There are no more raised hands via Zoom. We did have a few comment cards for people in the gallery. Alfred Venezuela.
Hello, my name is Alfred Valenzuela, and me and my sisters, we own Valenzuela Camp, the units there, and my concern is our water. We've been having problems with the water ever since we put those tanks in. They're two 20,000-gallon tanks, and they're above, the way they brought them up above, the water's been contaminated now. So what is this gonna do to our water next? And my dad's gas line he put down there in 1966, he ran it from Line Street. How are they gonna divert that gas line? There's my concerns. And the salamander, the tiger salamander is an issue also. So I need some answers on that, because it's a concern.
Okay.
The animal life and all this and that. I mean, I grew up in that riverbed, and there used to be striper, there used to be a lot of fish down there, and we don't see none of that no more, because the river doesn't really run no more. And it's a concern what's going on right now with the mining. And years back, somebody had told me that there was some pipes coming off the riverbed. These pipes, I don't know what they were from, but there was an explosion back then. Somebody had told me something about that. So I don't know how this mining thing works, but I'm just really concerned about our water. Water's a big issue right now, and contamination, any more contamination, I don't know how much more we could take about that, We started with fire sprinklers and all this and that they made us put up in our property, and next thing you know, our water got contaminated. It was good drinking water. The state said back in 1991, September of 91, they said never bring the water above ground, and there it is now. It's above ground, so that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there additional public comment in the gallery? Oop. Mr.
Richard.
Betancourt, since you're already up.
Yeah. Richard Betancourt, 4140 Southside Road. When I was a young man, I worked at Hollister Sand and Gravel 1, 2. My dad farmed to be the northeastern part of that property. So when I sat out there, Sandman came before us many times, and it ended up costing the county millions of dollars. And here we go again. The other thing is, We just opened walkway from, what was that, Apricot Lane to over to the 4th Street Bridge. Isn't that on part of this property? I don't know, but it seems like it might be, or bordering it anyway. But I'm all for helping this gentleman do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dalita Jones. I own the property directly across from Sandman Quarry. I'm painfully aware of the problems on the river. We deal with it daily. I think that the quarry is actually doing a lot. They put in a fence. I manage a gate for them. But, you know, it is a problem because the kids come and pull the barriers away. And in the last few years, especially since COVID, there's probably 20 people living on the river, which is where the fires are coming from, because they take cars down there and they strip them. But I guess I'm a little confused because it sounds like the quarry's not going to reopen and they're just managing it. If somebody can clarify that with me.
I can if the commission would like me to.
Sure, if you could come up and address that particular issue, please.
The IMP.
To the microphone, please.
The interim management plan, or IMP, would be the document that the county can rely on to enforce maintenance while the mine is idle. No mining is happening. Mining could and is, you know, trying to be restarted again, but that would be a part of the reclamation plan, a separate application and a separate hearing. This is something to substantiate the requirements of the State Mining Act for an idle mine while we're working on getting the other stuff worked out.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
So now I do have some concerns. So right on our property that is directly across from the entrance where the quarry would be, the property I own used to be part of the quarry, which has its own issues. We've had at least 11 people come through our fence in about 12 years because there's a slight curve. The other day there was a head-on with a cement truck and a just standard SUV type vehicle, or it was a truck, but anyway, so that's a big concern. There are kids that walk on that road to school. So if that quarry reopens, I see huge problems. That will affect a lot of residential properties. I have a business there that I have concerns about because of big trucks coming and going, the noise, the dust that goes on and on. I think the property is actually too close to town to even consider reopening that quarry, because you've got apartments right around the corner and there are kids everywhere. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional speaker cards or people wishing to address the commission? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Okay, Mr. Andrade, I have a question. Just if you could clarify for us, condition 9 does include that the owner will be providing evidence of compliance with the California Endangered Species Act, and that in regards to endangered wildlife and wilderness protection. Is that correct?
The project has Sequoia Environmental, qualified a biological firm that's doing the support both for the IMP and that is under consideration tonight, as well as the rec plan that's in the works.
Okay.
But they're on board and they're required to do pre-disturbance evaluation to make sure that we're not, with the regrading of the fire access roads and the weed abatement, that we're not destroying any sensitive habitat.
Okay.
So it's in line with avoidance based on recommendations from Sequoia Environmental.
Okay. My next question is, at this time, do you have any particular idea of the duration of the interim management plan versus a likely timeline of when the owner will be submitting this new reclamation plan?
Interim management plan will be in place when approved by you and then executed upon the conditions of approval whenever the mine is idle. I don't
Okay.
believe it has a termination other than maybe a 5-year renewal, which should be stated in one of the conditions. That's just so that everyone gets a chance to evaluate if any additional conditions should be warranted. And then the rec plan, you know, you saw the dates that we tried to submit it the last 3 years, excepting the COVID year. We've applied every year,
Okay.
and it's been deemed incomplete. And we're working diligently with staff to try to, you know, speed that process up, get us to the point where they can deem it complete so that it can go through the next stage of the process, which is another timely process. Involves the environmental review, an environmental impact report, the way that I understand it. So me giving you a guesstimate on time
Okay.
is totally inappropriate.
I understand. Okay, just one question for RMA. As a part of that plan, is that also going to include a traffic impact analysis? It will? Okay. That is going to be a kind of an aspect and a condition of the eventual plan. A question that I have for County Council is about the timeliness of, well, I do agree that there has not necessarily that condition 14, you know. What I would like to know from County Council is our sort of ability and authority to attach or sort of ask for an additional condition for the interim management plan at a later time once there has been more discussion and feedback with the property owner. Is that something that can be conditionally?
Your options are to delete condition 14, to modify condition 14, or to table the item until further discussion and resolution of item 14.
So in other words, we can't go back 6 months down the road. If we approve it today, we can't go back down the road and try to add another condition. Once we approve it, it's approved.
Well, I think that, you know, the input from the public suggests that there does need to be a discussion and, you know, that there does need to be an address about this. Okay, Mr. Andrade.
What question were you asking?
I was more commenting to the rest of the commission in regards to the discussion, but Mr. Andrade had an additional comment to make?
The problem with the language in 14 was specific to private security patrol and ambiguities associated with it. The applicant would consider you rephrasing it to the point where you require a direct communication and documentation of the communication between the owner and the sheriff, so that it can be evaluated by the sheriff. And certainly the sheriff, if he sees something that can happen, could request a change along those lines.
Okay. Well, what I would like to propose is that we perhaps table and amend this, amending condition 14, and, well, what...
Are you just suggesting we take out the language regarding private security but not table it? Table it would be putting it off to another meeting.
Well, okay. Okay, can we amend and condition 14 then to represent that the owner shall maintain a log of communications with county law enforcement agents, and also the condition that I would like to see with regards to 14 is that the owner shall have a weekly inspection and of the site. Well, okay, the concern.
By
the
whom?
Security, by the owner or agents of the owner.
Oh.
Basically, I think the major concern is chronic crime. That is to say that, you know, we've had members of the public saying that the site has been used for stripping cars, you know, long-term homeless encampment, the potential for drug activity. And so the security issue is to make sure that, you know, that sort of ongoing fire risks and ongoing criminal activity are not taking place.
I think part of the IMP is going to make access roads so that law enforcement and fire has the access to that property. Right now, if they can't get to it, those people are hidden and they'll do whatever they want to do unless the neighbors see it and report it. So I think part of the IMP would actually solve part of the problem.
Okay.
It's my understanding.
Well, okay. I think that the
Ariel, could you comment on the value of moving forward with the IMP as opposed to doing nothing?
So the value of approving the IMP is to help manage the site and these issues. I think there could be some possible language mitigation to condition 14 that would address some of applicants' concerns, that maybe we cross out private. If CMAP would like to share my screen here, I have the condition. Perfect. Can everyone see okay? Oh, maybe too much. My apologies. We could include regular security patrols, so cross out private, in coordination with the county sheriff office for patrol and emergency response access, or we could delete regular private security controls and have it coordinate security control with the county sheriff's office for patrol and emergency response access.
I would think that would be acceptable to everyone.
Okay, so
It's my understanding that the signage requirement was requested by the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, we were just going to strike those.
Yep.
The discussion was to strike the words regular private security patrols.
Right, thank you.
And then so you want to go ahead and make the motion and
I move that we adopt the resolution with the amended language to condition 14, which strikes the phrase regular private security patrols, but otherwise incorporates condition 14 as has been modified.
And you wanted to add language regarding keeping a log of communications between the owner applicant and the sheriff's department. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion, or does the motion die?
I will second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye, I'm not opposed.
Aye. So 4-0. Thank you.
Right, well,
Oh, I thought he made a
moved-
motion to approve the resolution with the...
Yes, we do have to have a motion to approve the amended resolution as we have just
I
amended it.
thought that's what you did.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
I understood it to be to amend, to approve the resolution subject to the amended language in item 14.
Well, I now move to approve the resolution as has been amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0, 4-0.
Thank
IMP
you.
approved. Thank you all. Okay. Well, this meeting is...
Last item.
Okay, last item, discussion item number 8, preliminary discussion regarding amending the San Benito County Code to allow retail cannabis businesses.
I'm gonna try this. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna wing it. Okay. Let's see. Oh my God, it's up. Sweet. Commissioners, thank you so much for your patience through this very long hearing. We will we will investigate and address the problems that we've been having, I promise. And let's close that, thank you. So, talking cannabis, as commissioners are likely aware, the topic of cannabis businesses has been raised by the board. They're looking, as we all are, for enhancing economic development. Retail specifically offers both sales tax revenue and cannabis tax revenue. Measure C, actually, even though retail is not currently an approved use, we do have a provision that sets the cannabis tax at a range between 0.5% and 3%. I believe that's gross sales. So the revenue stream is clear and needed. So we were directed to come up with a draft retail cannabis ordinance. There are two different types of retail cannabis businesses: storefront, brick and mortar, dispensary, and delivery services. The storefront is an easier lift, frankly. The delivery we will address, and we will be coming back, but there are more policy decisions to deal with. We envision, and subject to discussion, of course, and input from your commission. The storefront in, for instance, C1, C2, commercial zone districts, we think pose very few hurdles when compared to delivery, which we actually envision as being appropriate in more than just the commercial zone districts, AR, AP potentially, but those involve more policy discussion. So again, tonight, really just want to talk about storefront. The State Bureau of Cannabis Control, BCC, issues separate licenses for both the storefront and delivery. Again, commercial zone districts, retail businesses are already allowed. Fewer traffic, parking, and other compatibility issues with surrounding properties, we think, for storefront. Again, delivery, we will be coming back and addressing that at a future hearing. So the first sort of discussion point, and I'll keep this up and we'll talk about all of these when I'm done here, but we can put storefront businesses in C1, C2 with relatively few changes. These, again, already allow retail businesses as an allowed use, and most of these sites have access already to sewer and water. The manufacturing and industrial sites that we have, very limited. The highest and best use of those sites is really for a more intensive industrial type operation. I don't think that we want to use those for retail, but that's a point of discussion. And the ag and residential districts, again, we really have potentially policy conflicts. A cannabis dispensary is not a fruit or vegetable stand, even though those might be allowed. There just are more considerations with security and compatibility issues, traffic, et cetera. I did, the zone districts C1, C2 are few and far between in our county. And in fact, when I first got this map, I could not quite figure them out, but I just wanted to sort of illustrate where these sites would be along transportation corridors generally. And we can do a more sort of granular look at that when we come back. So the ordinances that need to be changed in order to accommodate retail would be the Chapter 7.02, which is the Ag Commissioner's portion, and then our use tables, 19.43, simply allowing the use, and then adding conditions that we think may be specific to dealing with impacts around retail uses. And then 2516, we need to remove the prohibition. So again, what we're talking about is the impacts of a dispensary, the issues that come up most commonly: security, crime, exposure to our youth, traffic, parking, noise. Again, the question for commissioners is, do we limit to C1, C2 zone districts, or do we open this up? The fastest way, I think, to get something on the ground is to look at these C1, C2 zone districts. That's certainly where I'm coming from, but that's why we're here, to get input from you folks. The next question is, I think, relatively straightforward, and that's what level of review do these retail cannabis stores require? Right now, all the cannabis, other types of cannabis businesses require at least a CUP. C1, C2 allows retail with a CUP. I just put in there that nurseries, people have made the equivalence between nurseries and dispensaries. Nurseries are subject to administrative approval. I think a CUP is more appropriate, but again, subject to discussion. The other issue has to do with setbacks, and this is a little bit more nuanced, and we can flesh it out to the extent that you have the bandwidth for it. Right now, non-retail cannabis businesses have a 1,000-foot setback to schools and other sensitive uses, churches and parks. That can be reduced with a variance. It's a question about whether those impacts that generally are associated with, for instance, cultivation. We're talking about odor, not really the same impact with a retail dispensary. So we could certainly talk about whether that's appropriate. 100 feet from the premises, that's generally the store, to the property line. Depending on how big the site is, that also might be a little bit more onerous than what would be required in a C1, C2 zone district. 300 feet from the residential zone district and adjacent, or 100 feet if the parcel is less than 10 acres. I haven't done an exhaustive inventory, but I assume most of these are less than 10 acres. So that would be 100 feet. Again, measured from not, I have to look and check, but I don't believe that's property line to property line. My recollection, I actually have a little sort of stick drawing, is from the building to the property line adjacent to a residential zone district. That's pretty standard, but we can talk about whether that's appropriate. So the question would be, do we treat retail stores the same way we treat a farm or a manufacturing facility? The next item of discussion is about signage. Right now, C1, C2, there's a range depending on the frontage, and it's ranges from 50 square feet minimum to 300 square feet, which is a very large sign if you have a very large frontage. In Santa Cruz, there's a restriction on the use of cannabis imagery. I don't think that is applied in the city of Hollister. It's something that is designed to protect youth from exposure, and the assumption being that folks know where the dispensaries are without a giant cannabis leaf. But again, it's a subject for discussion. It's not required, and there's been some pushback in Santa Cruz having to do with constitutional issues regulating content. They haven't been challenged, so I don't see that as an issue, but it's something to consider, whether we want to restrict both the size and the content of any signs. Advertising is already regulated by the BCC on the state level. They also have regulations concerning security. So I've said this before, but cannabis is probably the most highly regulated industry there is, given all the different layers, maybe a nuclear power plant, but just as for what it is. The layers of regulation are pretty, pretty intense. And then the last issue I thought we'd talk about a little bit is how are we limiting these? We could either say, if we want to say X number of permits are allowed throughout the county. The other way to do it, the way Santa Cruz did it, was to establish a setback, I think 800 feet between stores. We might want to also consider whether we have setbacks to, such as they are in the cities, that may pose competition. It's just a question. Again, we have, I think right now we have a cap on the cultivation sites. We haven't come close to that, 50. So is it, bring it on, let's see who comes, or do we want to restrict how many can be in 1 square mile, for instance? I have ideas about these things, but I really want to hear from you folks and see if you've been thinking about this as much as I have. Probably not. And then just a reminder, the idea is that we come back at the next hearing with actual draft language that you can vote up, down, change, whatever. But I want to get everybody's input tonight. And then August 10th, we want to move quickly on this. The idea is to take your recommendations directly to the board and have them vote on this. And then hopefully 18th, we come back and we can talk about delivery. So that's kind of generally, I can go back and look at the topics, or you can tell me what else you're thinking about.
But before we go to the commission, I'd like to hear what, if we have anybody left on Zoom.
Oh, excellent.
If there are any comments.
There is no public comment via Zoom, and I do not see any public comment via chambers.
Okay, that took care of public comment. Public comment is closed. We'll open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Scaliotti, any comments, suggestions?
One question. Way back at the beginning when you started, you said something about the Ag Commissioner. What's the Ag Commissioner have to do with the sales of the selling of this? Or
The current code requires all cannabis businesses to go through the Ag Commission for a sort of
growing and sales.
pre-vetting. Right now, that's cultivation, manufacture. We could talk about distribution another time, but this, unless we completely change that, which is just a heavier lift, but right now, all cannabis businesses, please.
One other question. Is this going to help remove that on and off timing where it's open all the time, or when it's going to be
The
closed?
application process?
Yes. Is that part of this too, or am I talking about something I shouldn't talk about?
It can be. I didn't put it in because it is broader. It covers more than just retail. I do want to see that changed as well.
So how do we go about starting that process? That later?
We suggest an ordinance change because it is.
It doesn't make sense. If people want to do business, you can't be opening and closing something for business. It doesn't make sense. I don't care if it's cannabis, lettuce, garlic, or whatever.
We'll work with the board to make the other changes to the ordinance. But right now, we're just going to worry about getting retail approved. Yeah.
And you're right. And we've been thinking, talk to county council, and behind the scenes, we talk about this a lot. It's just, what's the quickest way? If we take it all on, we're going to be talking about this for a long time because people do have real concerns. And retail was cut out for a reason. I wasn't around. I don't know what the concerns were, but there's still a stigma. So it is kind of baby steps for us. But I agree with you. I don't want the application period to come and go. I agree with that.
Okay. Commissioner Pack.
I have first a question and then a comment, I suppose. My question is, in looking towards the model language, you've been reviewing the language that has been adopted by the County of Santa Cruz, also possibly the County of Monterey, the County of Santa Clara. And have you looked at the language that is in usage by Humboldt County? as they have apparently a very successful and thriving industry. And what can you tell us about the differences between our neighboring counties as far as these discussion topics? You already went into the advertising, that's how Santa Cruz differs. What are some other?
The advertising is actually covered by the state. It's signage, and everybody is slightly different, frankly. I'm obviously most familiar with the Santa Cruz ordinances, but there's also a different sort of mosaic of zoning categories. It's hard to compare to Monterey, for instance, which has, you know, more sort of commercial areas. It's a little bit apples and oranges, but I mean, I can give you really, again, most of my experience in Santa Cruz, and less so. I haven't done an exhaustive comparison other than tax rates to make sure that we weren't, you know, way overshooting on taxes, because that really has been, I mean, even the state has had to lower their taxes, because when you make it too expensive at the dispensaries, you know, you're feeding the black market, which is the opposite of where we want to go. So other than the tax study, I haven't looked at every jurisdiction. I took a peek at Hollister to see, and really was, I don't think, well, we had one dispensary in the city that is sort of on the bubble right now, as far as I know. So anyway, it really is up to us where we think that these belong. I can give you more of a comparison, but it's hard to find a county that is laid out the way that we do, that has such you know, limited areas to look at for commercial anyway.
Okay.
So, but if you have specific issues that you want more education about or comparison, I can, you know, I can look at it. Tell me what you want, or what your concerns are, and I can try to fill it in.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I think the comment is more just towards the cannabis industry in general than it is towards specifically retail, and therefore it's not necessarily relevant towards this ordinance. But right now, my understanding is that we have roughly 8 C1 and C2 sites in the county. Is that correct, or is that the correct number of C1 and C2 areas?
Specific parcels, I'm
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Here we go.
So,
That's the orange one way out by 25, right?
yeah, well, so, let me see if I can use this.
One.
No. Right, so can you, no, you can't see that. Yeah.
We have one that's out near, like,
So 25 is, right, it's,
That's 156.
yeah, that's out by Casa del Fruta.
northwest to southeast, right?
I couldn't read it, that's why I asked.
I'm trying to zoom.
The big orange thing?
Let's see, Shift Plus?
That's the old paintball
there.
place, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
look,
that would not
oh,
work.
look, it did it. Okay, so,
Oh, that's the old paintball place, you're right, that wouldn't work. That's ridiculous. McCray
do you want me
Street,
to
that's downtown.
move up or down or more?
An area by Nash and Union Road, an area out by Highway 101.
But we're also, again, not picking a specific site tonight. We're just trying to figure out whether C1 or C2 are appropriate, as opposed to using our very limited industrial area.
Right.
Well, to make a storefront,
Yeah.
you know,
In
neighborhood, you make a storefront.
in my opinion, it would be that C1 and C2 are far more appropriate than an industrial zone.
Industrial zoning is so valuable and so rare, and we'd be missing out on some significant opportunities
Yeah.
if we took it up.
You don't
with-
want to burn them up for retail.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, people, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility that folks could come in and propose rezoning. It's certainly a heavier lift, but that's certainly a possibility, you know, in it for a lot of reasons, not just cannabis. But whether we, you know, go back to talking about the nodes, or we're talking about corridors, transportation corridors, or even, you know, close to other small hubs, the opportunities are there that may not, you know, exist already. But
Could I trouble you to go back to the list of the particular items you wanted us to share our
Yes.
thoughts on,
No.
please?
Yes, you can.
My memory is not the best.
I know. I was trying to organize this in a way that would keep it fresh. So,
Commissioner Pack, do you have additional questions or concerns?
Okay, so you said generally advertising and signage is covered by the state, and I imagine that a lot of it is comparable to the existing regulations on cigarettes, so like cartoon
Joe
mascots are not
Camel
allowed.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yes. It is, yeah, no images likely to appeal to minors. If you advertise in a newspaper, it has to be a certain percentage of adult readership, 76 and change. So, but it doesn't specifically address signage. They are two different things, and the state, for I'm sure a variety of reasons, has stayed out of signs. So, sorry, keep going.
You have additional suggestions, Commissioner Pack? Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yeah, the only or kind of if you can go back to the map real quick.
Sure.
So the ones that are C1 and C2 are the ones in the city, correct? Or kind of in the city of Hollister.
The surrounding, right, so, how did I do that before? There. Yeah, so, certainly around, so we're here, so, yeah, I don't have the city boundaries turned up, so.
So the dark,
periphery,
the
for
dark,
sure.
the dark
And then
red.
101, and, so the dark is C2, correct.
Got it. Yeah. So my only recommendation would be, like I said, I don't know how the traffic impacts or parking requirements. I would say to incentivize these businesses is and kind of make them more accessible to consumers, kind of easing back on traffic impact fees, parking requirements, because you know those can be can limit a business because you know
Money.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you know we would like to have these businesses kind of you know promote success, where opposed to somebody having to drive 10 miles to get to go to a storefront. So that's kind of my suggestion. I don't know.
Incentivize in various ways, maybe with impact fees or, okay.
I do have an additional question this time.
Commissioner Pack.
So one of the things to discuss in terms of drafting this ordinance is, you mentioned keeping the taxes at a rate that's kind of comparable to our neighbors that, encourages it. So one of the items to consider in drafting this resolution is whether the taxes will be directed towards the general fund or whether they will be directed just to the behavioral health and, public health fund. So that's, that is one item that we will have to consider as we develop this. Is that yes?
Do you mean law enforcement?
Or law enforcement, yes.
Okay. You did mean public health, okay.
Or roads.
Well, that's the question, is whether it's to just go to the general fund and just the discretion of, the county in general, or whether we want to be looking at a sort of a tax the cost, wherein it's going towards law enforcement, public health, and behavioral health.
I think when we have the broader discussion of updating the ordinance, that'll come into play, and then we'll have to deal with the supervisors, because limiting their ability to spend money might not be appreciated.
Yeah.
But we can certainly propose that the funds not go to the general fund, and all they can do is amend that language.
Yeah, that's a pretty challenging conversation to have. I can tell you from experience, to sort of earmark specifically, but there are other ways to address the impacts that you're thinking about.
I have a question. Difference between C1 and C2. What's the difference between C1 and C2 zone, commercial zone? What's the difference between a C1 and a C2?
C1 is thoroughfare. It was actually more directed toward auto-related, so gas stations and repair shops and things. It's more sort of automotive related.
And C2?
And C2 is the neighborhood. Yeah, it's
Expectation is you can go buy a quart of milk and a newspaper.
run down the
Strip
street.
mall type stuff.
on your
Yeah.
feet that you might not need your car.
And that would be where the CUP comes in handy, because then we would have the ability to say, well, not that particular location because it's not appropriate.
Well, yeah,
Right.
because I was looking at the orange ones, they're all out in the county, out in the middle of nowhere, so it wouldn't make no sense to put a storefront out on San Felipe Road north of 156. That's why I'm looking at the map thinking, why would you want to be more downtown so we can make money with it?
No.
That's just my
Well.
opinion.
In the county, but close to Hollister.
Downtown, we don't make any
This
money,
is a
but I
little
understand
piece
your
of county
point.
right there in the middle of Hollister, and I'm looking at it.
I know. It's controversial, but I will say that there have been folks interested in the 101 corridor.
That's fine.
Okay, just
Yeah,
throwing that out.
pulling revenue off from
Pull
the
a
other
revenue off
counties.
somebody's
That's
own
great.
county. I don't care, bring it on.
Easy off, yes. So
Okay.
that's certainly a consideration.
Okay. If I could trouble you to go back to the list and then.
I can.
I'll say that I don't think there should be a limit. I think we should let the market set the limit.
Really?
Like you said, with the cultivation, we have a limit of 50 and we're currently at 0. So there's no point setting an artificial limit when we aren't even coming close.
I hear you.
Um,
What about distance from competition with our city neighbors? No.
No,
No.
no
No,
distance.
bring it. Okay. I hear you.
And you make sure we're a 0.5% cheaper on the tax, so they'll come our way.
Yeah, I mean, the comment that I was going to make is that when you look at the industry, we have an advantage and a disadvantage over Humboldt, which is currently the nexus, the most concentrated area of cultivation activity in the state. The advantage that we have is logistical and distributional. We're much closer, for a cultivator or grower, we're much closer to the markets of the Bay Area and the Los Angeles and the Silicon Valley than Humboldt County is. The disadvantage is water. Cannabis is a water-intensive crop, as it is currently cultivated, is my understanding. And so, that's going to be one issue, is that if we want to encourage cultivation, and if we want to encourage it developing the agricultural aspect of this, we will have to look at the water, but on the other hand, we can be a very attractive community for this industry.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Signage, 300 square feet seems a little big. I don't care how big your storefront is, it seems rather excessive, and I also think that some images we probably wouldn't want on there. So I think that we do need to have language that would limit the size. What that is, I don't know.
50 square feet is huge.
Yeah.
It is. It's relative to.
I would say no bigger than 50 square feet.
It can be smaller. That's what we have now for C1,
That's
C2.
my opinion, guys. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Signage, commercial signage. We can have it much smaller.
And then they can come to us and ask us for something bigger.
So you're saying a 4x8, 24 square feet?
I'd say no more than 50 square feet.
No
So
more than
that-
50. Okay.
Well, that gives you 50 square feet is how many? That's 2 sheets of plywood.
Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty good
Sign.
size.
That's a big
Seems.
sign.
Is that acceptable? Is that a consensus?
Is that okay?
6x8, yeah, I mean, or 6x8 or 4x12.
So 50.
yeah.
So 50 square feet or less.
Okay.
And then
Or is that too small? You're the guru.
No.
What would you say? I mean,
It really does depend.
it depends on the
50
building too. I mean,
It depends on the building. If you're on a corner, there's that fine line between,
'cause you could have on
wanting
two sides,
to
huh?
advertise, weed here, and I'm just saying, and where's that shop I'm looking for? I mean,
100
folks
square
know
feet,
how
sir?
to find these shops.
But-
It's not like they're gonna come screeching to a halt
I just
because
threw a
they
number out
saw a
there.
giant green cross.
we can talk about it.
So 50 square feet is fairly standard. again, it's sort of relative to the size
I
of
mean,
the
that's
building.
not a billboard size necessarily, but that's a 6x8, which is like a really large, full, fill your store window sized sign.
Yeah, so that should be plenty.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be having a 20,000 square foot retail store. I mean, I don't think they could afford the rent. I would wanna spend that much money, so I think the 50 should be more than sufficient for most.
What- That, in my experience, folks, there are websites that steer you to who's got the deals and who's the best this or that. So
And-
folks tend to know. It's likely not the case that you're going to have folks heading to the Pinnacles that go, oh, honey,
I need that little red
just
paper.
not that it won't happen, but that's not been my experience. Santa Cruz actually started much smaller and then kind of ramped up a little bit with the signage, just because people were missing it entirely and apparently don't have Google Maps or whatever. So I will I'll put that in the draft ordinance.
Is there
Say 50?
50? And is there a consensus for limiting the use of imagery, certain images? I don't know what that language would look like, but do you all feel that it's appropriate to do that?
I think that the language we should be looking towards is in conformity with existing nicotine and drug relating to child imagery and cartoon mascots. So comparable to what the rules that are used for the cigarette industry in regards to not advertising to children.
That makes sense.
Or whatever other language that other jurisdictions use that would accomplish that goal.
Images of cannabis, leaves, products, anything that screams out
Just some big old blunt, some guy smoking on it.
like that.
We're
for
making
instance.
progress. Okay, setbacks.
The green cross is fine.
What are your thoughts on setbacks?
The school, my trouble with setbacks is the way it's written now is for schools, it's property line to property line, even if you have topography, you're up on a hill and we've got a site like this now, I think we can, it's a cultivation site. That's a big setback, but it also depends on the proximity. I haven't looked at all of our C1, C2 zoning to see how many of these sites could be coming up against that.
None of the ones that you showed on that map.
No.
I
So-
know this town pretty good.
Yeah.
None of the ones you showed on that map. Go
No.
near a
No, but
school.
if it
No.
seems overly large where it would completely limit to just one or two spots, maybe we should reduce it so that it provides more possibilities. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's possible. I can come back with, to support something smaller. 600 feet is actually what the state used to require for cannabis, and then they actually did not. Originally, you couldn't get a variance to the 600 square feet. Now, on the state level, they took that out, so you could get a variance for something smaller. That's another option. We could say, 600 feet, and allow for a variance in cases where, again, the school's up here, the shop's down here, kids aren't walking by the shop, something along those lines. It feels like, in Santa Cruz, it's called an exception. It's not actually a variance. I don't want to change everything quite that much, but it allows some discretion to say, the issue with kids or other, churches or whatever, if they're not going to, be driving by you or see you on the way to their school, then it sort of doesn't make sense. So we can kind of tease out some language that maybe sets 600 feet and maybe some process for even reducing that further, if the situation warrants,
Yeah,
right?
we don't want to go where we were with the original ordinance where we made it so unappetizing that we ended up with 0. So,
The city of
Commissioner
Hollister-
Scagliotti.
Yeah, the city of Hollister has one right next to all of their administration buildings off of San Felipe Road. It's 0 feet, right where the food bank is at.
Oh,
The old Gavilan Welding is one of the biggest grows in Hollister,
wow.
and they're right next to the county buildings, and that's 50 feet.
Well, county workers.
I'm just saying, we don't have to go that far back.
Right.
And that's county building there too. That's county buildings there too.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not sure where the churches came in, I guess it's a, religious thing. The schools, I understand, I think we all understand, this is about exposure to kids and, making sure it's not sort of in their face. I will say though, again, that the state has requirements that restrict, that you cannot display cannabis, it cannot be visible from the exterior of the building, the limitations on signage. Our high school or junior high kids gonna know what the green cross is? Probably. But, it's not sort of in your face. The way, a cultivation site or manufacturing site, there's gonna be odor. They're just, even with the odor control. So we don't have that issue, generally speaking, at least that I've come across with retail shops. Doesn't smell like pot when you're walking by. Anyway, so I can see some flexibility to that.
Yeah, the consensus for that as well, to reduce that so it's a little more business friendly?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Any comments on the other numbers? 100 feet from premise to property line or 300 feet into residential? Those are sufficient.
I think that's where you should have the 1,000 feet. Is it the residential? Keep it away from residential.
Mr.
I think she put those in there because those are kind of existing on the books.
Yes.
Consideration of how retail's configured.
Right.
Very different setback.
100 feet
Often
on
commercial buildings
both
are side
sides
by
from a
side.
commercial building. Let me just, I have a, I don't know if this is helpful, so, so cannabis shop, right? 100 feet to the property line. I didn't have any sort of scale here. So you're 200 feet in from the property. That's a big setback, right? We know our building setbacks are in the neighborhood of 10, 15, 20 feet. So 100 feet on both sides is a lot. So again, this was envisioned primarily for cultivation, big giant farm, and acreage. These C1, C2 sites, and I'll pull up some parcel sizes and stuff if that would help, but I think 100 feet is a lot to the property line.
25?
Yeah, let's have
What's
them
the
in
standard
compliance
setback on
with
a
standard
industrial when you go from sidewalk to the front of a building? What's the standard setback on that?
Industrial, 20, you guys would know this better than I would. 20 feet? I know, everybody's looking at the ceiling.
Well,
Our industrial's just not in the city. It's out in the country.
Oh, I missed the city part. But a general commercial or industrial setback, like from,
It's like 20, I believe it's 20 feet front
Front.
setback and, is
20
it 8 on the side?
depends on
And,
what you're next to, right? Or maybe not here, sorry, Santa Cruz. So,
Is there going to be a residence within 20 feet of a commercial building?
well, and so I put up the 300-foot, which you can shrink on smaller parcels, to the residential, adjacent residential site. There might be, we probably have some non-conforming residences, because it does apply to non-conforming as well. So if a residence has been on a, C1, C2 or something, and it happens to be close, that happens. But again, if we measure from where the building is, so here, from the building, we're not talking property line to property line, which would be weird because they would normally touch. But anyway, from the shop itself to either the property line or the actual residence. I think 300 feet from building to building makes sense. Maybe 100 feet to the edge of the property line.
It's good speed.
hi, so, Chief Bedolla, wanted to let you know that if you would like, he could take you on tours of 5 facilities within the city of Hollister And being able to tour a facility would kind of help bring a better light and understanding to how this operates. And so we could work on scheduling a site visit.
Sure, that sounds fun. We've never done that before.
There's 5 in Hollister?
Not retail, just
Not retail, but
right,
5 facilities.
cultivation, manufacturing.
Okay.
And it would help you better
Who's driving
to
the
see it
van?
live.
Joel?
Well, that would have to be either done serially
Right.
or as a special meeting, and the public would have to have the right to attend and so on.
Right.
So, the 2x2.
We can
Like an arc.
definitely schedule that.
Yeah,
I would be interested.
I'd be interested.
sounds like a plan.
Okay.
And then with the setbacks, we have to figure out some ranges or numbers, but significantly lower than those numbers. Seems to be the consensus of everybody.
So,
Wanted to go 50 feet from premise to property line.
okay.
So reduce it from 100 to 50 or
We want to go
20?
smaller. Go smaller, I don't care.
20?
20? 20 it is.
I want to make this work, I want money.
Well, yeah. Don't want to make an ordinance and then have nobody show up.
Might as well
That's why
go
I'm
for it.
pushing on that.
You know,
We got to grow it here too to sell it here. I mean, if you get guys
Yes.
growing it here,
we're getting there.
oh, that's why I'm good. That's why I keep harping on what I'm harping on.
I know. Well, we're getting there. Okay.
Yeah.
So 20 to the property line. Zone district, does it make, or zoned, residentially zoned parcel is really what that should say. The least restrictive right now for other cannabis is 100 feet, again, from the dispensary shop to the property line. We could make that from the shop to the actual structure, the residential structure, and make that 100 feet.
Yeah, I think with
Yeah, you
that
don't
would
want to
be
get it too close to someone's house. That's not cool.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are impacts. You do, if it's popular, there are going to be people in and out. And we can talk, you know, the hours of operation are pretty standard, and the state actually has some restrictions there. It would be kind of normal business hours.
Yeah, well, that's where the CUP comes in handy, because then we can do all kinds of things.
Exactly. Okay.
And that would be the next CUP, in my opinion, is the most appropriate, because it comes to us and we can do a lot of conditions as opposed to I'm all for efficiency, but for this particular item, I think a little more control would be appropriate as opposed to administrative approval. Sorry.
Does not hurt my
So I
feelings
don't know
at
what
all.
the consensus
All
of the
yours.
commission? You think it should be an administrative approval or come to the commission?
Commission.
Come to the commission.
Okay, very good.
That's what we're
Don't
here for.
be. No, please.
And
Have at it. We'll make our recommendations, and you can.
I can always shoot you down. I'll take it.
and C1 and C2, as opposed to using our other assets for retail.
Oh, just C1 and C2, that's
Yeah.
it. Don't get it stuck on the
Don't
middle
use
of
industrial or
whatever
Yep.
it is. That's not
Okay.
what we do out there. We don't sell dope.
Perfect.
Cannabis.
Okay.
There we go. I
I
think
think
we
we did it.
we did
grow
it.
it.
I will see you next month
Yes.
with draft language. Thank
Sounds
you very
good.
much.
Thank
I
you.
Appreciate it. You bet.
Thank you to the members of the public that are on Zoom and in the gallery. Do we have a motion to adjourn this
Move to
meeting?
adjourn.
I second.
Oh, what? Hold that thought.
Public comment.
No, commissioner comments. For the next, this has been a brutal meeting. For the next meeting, if it's possible, for those of you that attended that virtual conference, if you could just tell us a little bit about your experience. I did not participate because virtual things are killing me. But if you could comment on your experience with the virtual conference that you had last month. And Commissioner Scagliotti, do you have other comments before we adjourn?
Yes, just one comment. May I please have my packet earlier?
Earlier than,
Thursdays when we're supposed to have them.
you're right, and we will always shoot for Thursday. There were some changes with that many items and some controversy. Some things came late to us. We will definitely shoot for Thursday, and if we can't make it, we will let you know. And I know that was a lot, and it's a lot to read. but there's also, just, people, the public, the folks that have gotten it or seen it online or know about it will call us. And so, all of that being said, yes, we will definitely
Thank you.
shoot for Thursday.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
I just kind of wanted to add something on the next agenda or a discussion or just kind of look more into it. So just kind of some statistics I was looking up. So according to HUD, 25% of all home mortgages were not for owner occupancy. So they were like investment properties. So I was wondering if, I know the county assessor has a lot of the property records. If we as San Benito County can access a way of finding out how many properties are used for investment properties. And then one way we can track that is maybe seeing how many P.O. boxes are from out of state, out of the country, because I think that's good data for us to have to see how many of the properties have foreign, have invest in, they're not actual owner occupants, they're investments.
To contextualize, I think, Mr. Rodriguez, one argument that has been made with regards to the affordable housing crisis is that international investment in real estate properties, it is a phenomenon that exists in British Columbia, in San Francisco, in other places, where there are investors that are not even acting as landlords towards properties, but are merely holding the properties. And this is one of the things that is driving the affordable housing crisis in California, is properties that are being taken by international investors purely as an investment portfolio, without regard either towards residence or towards rental. And so, there is a question of the degree to which San Benito's affordable housing crisis is being exacerbated by this phenomenon.
Commissioner, I don't disagree that those are important issues, and I'm happy to point you in the direction of, where you might be able to track down some of that information. It's not necessarily something that's attached to projects or what we would be dealing with here. I would encourage you to talk to the supervisors if you think that that's something that they might want to raise and direct staff. I'm not seeing a connection in terms of bringing something and putting it on the agenda, but I definitely want to make sure that you have access to whatever information exists out there. We can certainly help provide that to you, maybe outside of a formal agendized meeting.
So
Thank you.
In other words, it's not in the purview of the commission. But you could reach out to the assessor as an individual, as a citizen, and ask for that information.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Is that it? And then, yeah, I've had enough. Okay, so there was a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 4-0. Thank you all. Yeah.